Hello there, my friends. Are you a good listener? Chances are you think you are, and you are probably not. This is Outside the Bubble. I'm your host, Joanna Bull, and today we are talking all about listening. When was the last time you actively practiced listening? Most of us do not practice listening, and listening is actually a skill. Now, we've chatted on the topic of listening before on Outside the Bubble. I have shared that I thought I was a good listener, and I found out that I sucked. So guess what? I've been practicing my listening, and my work and my personal life have improved due to this practice, and I would like to share with you all about listening today so that your life can also improve. So if you're ready to up-level your life, consider leveling up your listening. And to start off with, we need to remember that active listening requires effort. It's not passive. You cannot do it while you're distracted by your phone or marking or answering an email. Active listening requires your whole self to be present and focused on the other person. This includes your partner, your children, your family, your friends, and of course, your students and coworkers. Active listening is not the following four things. Number one, it is not response rehearsal. Response rehearsal occurs when you think you are listening, but instead you're actually focusing on what you're going to say when it's your turn. In conversation, this occurs due to being impatient. And as a result, you don't actually hear what the other person's saying. I'm in dress rehearsal mode when I'm in a group and we're in a circle, for example, in a workshop, and we have to introduce ourselves, and it's getting close to my turn, and I'm practicing how I'm going to introduce myself. And guess what ends up happening? I end up missing the names of the 5 people or so before me. Many people are actually in dress rehearsal all the time in conversation, which means they're actually never listening. They are always waiting for their turn to speak. Number 2, active listening is not fact-finding. Fact-finding occurs when you search for the facts and details of what someone is saying instead of listening to the overall message they're trying to communicate. When you're on a fact-finding mission, you get caught up in the details that aren't important, and you miss the overall big picture or the overall message of what the person's trying to say. Being in a fact-finding mission means you draw out specific facts, and you often make conclusions or judgments that prove your point of view to be correct or to confirm or support a bias or a judgment. Number 3, active listening is not being judgmental. When you form judgments about the other person, their opinions, their actions, or if you think you have the answer, or if you know better, or if you think that you are better, you aren't listening to understand, you're just being really judgy. Judgmental listening is actually dangerous because once we've formed an opinion of somebody or something, we'll actually look for evidence to support our opinion. Number 4, active listening is not problem solving. This is a teacher issue. Teachers are natural problem solvers. In my experience, this is by far the most popular listening faux pas of the teacher. This occurs when you listen for problems to solve. When you're listening like this, you are actively thinking of solutions to the other person's problem instead of listening to what they're saying. You become so distracted by your own problem-solving thoughts that you miss the core message or you jump in too quickly with your judgment. So what do we do instead? Instead, we're going to practice the following. Number 1, build rapport. This can be done by looking at the person or in their direction and positioning your body language to match their body language, as long as it's not threatening body language. Pay attention to the position of your arms and hands. Part of building rapport is being attentive in the conversation. You do not have to stare deeply into their eyes. However, do make sure to be looking in their direction and pay attention to non-verbal encouragement on your part. So things like nodding your head, for example. You don't want to give signs of encouragement that demonstrate to the other person that you feel they're on the right track or that they're pleasing you. You do want to experience empathy, and in order to do that, you have to put yourself in the other person's place and allow yourself to feel what it's like to be them. This means trying to match their emotions as best as possible. If they feel joy, you feel joy. If they feel sadness, you also feel sadness. This is not an easy thing to do, and it takes energy and concentration. Number 2, approach your listening with an open mind. Keep your mind clear of thoughts, judgments, or solutions. Pay attention to how you are actually feeling in the conversation. Feeling uncomfortable, alarmed, or worried is different from thinking a judgmental thought or thinking of a solution. Number 3, listen without forming conclusions, interrupting, or finishing the thought. When you form conclusions, you've already stopped listening, and when you cut someone off, you're saying that what you think is more important. Interrupting sends a variety of messages, and it says, I'm more important than you are. What I have to say is more interesting, accurate, or relevant. I don't really care what you think. I don't have time for your opinion. This isn't a conversation, it's a contest, and I'm going to win. None of these are messages you want to convey. We all think and speak at different rates. So if you're a fast thinker and speaker, you need to hold yourself accountable. If you struggle with this, ask a friend or coworker to be a critical friend and call you out when you interrupt. Remember, it takes practice. Consider trying mindful deep breathing while you're listening. 2 deep breaths in, followed by 3 deep breaths out until after the person is finished speaking. Number 4, ask questions to clarify understanding, but do not get autobiographical or take the conversation in a different direction. Use the strategy of asking why with a specific piece of information from them in order to seek clarification. Don't randomly ask why about something that interests you and redirect the conversation. Instead, ask why from a place of clarification or curiosity. All right, so you've been practicing your listening for a little while. Now what? Now it's time to start paraphrasing. So the next steps are the steps of a great paraphrase. And we've also talked about paraphrasing before on Outside the Bubble when I was sharing my experience going through cognitive coaching. The steps for a great paraphrase are: you're listening to understand, you capture the essence of the message, you reflect the essence of voice, tone, and gestures, you make the paraphrase shorter than the original statement, you paraphrase before you ask a question, and you use the pronoun you instead of I. Paraphrasing can also be as simple as just naming an emotion. So for example, you have a student who hasn't handed in their homework and they're explaining the situation and they say something like, "Miss, it's not fair. My sister was on the computer and she was just talking to her friends and she knew I needed it." Your response can just be, "So you're feeling frustrated." So you've named the emotion. And if the student isn't feeling frustrated, they'll correct you and they'll tell you, "No, I'm not frustrated. I just think it's really unfair." And then you just allow the person to continue speaking. So it's all about practice, practice, practice. Practice the skill of listening and paraphrasing at least once a day, and you'll notice a change within yourself and the quality of your conversations. Wow, this was a short one, but it is summertime and the weather has finally been nice here in Toronto. So I have not wanted to spend tons of time in my basement in my podcasting studio. I do, however, have some fantastic episodes coming up for you to enjoy for the rest of the summer. So I look forward to chatting with you in 2 weeks. Let me know what your summer plans are and if and when you practice your listening. Reach out on Twitter at Idea Smashing. For my Canadian friends, we have 2 days left. It's almost the end. And for my American friends, I'm pretty sure you've been off for a while. Have an amazing summer. And if you happen to be listening to this and it's not summertime, thanks for finding Outside the Bubble. We'll chat soon.